after the Moshe tells the Jews the four expressions of Gula, of redemption, the Torah tells us, Pasuk Tes, V'lo shomel el Moshe b'kotzu ruach me'avoda kosher. They did not listen to Moshe because they were short-winded and because of the overwhelming level of hard work. Okay? Meaning when a person is overwhelmed and he's totally feels he's in a untenable situation, you can't appreciate what's being told. You can't appreciate the opportunity that's being presented. Therefore, you don't have the emotional capacity to focus, to appreciate what's being said. Okay? So over here, if you have the Mekros Gedolos Chumash, this Farno says something interesting. We find later, when we were in the desert, all of a sudden they have an idea, we have to send spies to scout out the land. They come back with ominous reports. 12 of the spies, 10 of them come back with negative reports. Kolev and Yeshua come back with positive reports. The Jews themselves accept the reading of the 10, not the 2. That's the Chet HaMeraglim. And because of the Chet HaMeraglim, they wandered for 40 years in the desert, and only the new generation went into Eretz Yisrael. They did not believe, because they did not believe, but Hashem had said to them, I'm bringing you to Eretz Zovas Chol V'Dvosh. I'm bringing you to a land which is flowing with milk and honey. And the Meraglim came back with reports, Eretz Ochel Yoshvel. It's a land which devours its inhabitants. It's not survivable. It's a death trap. We will not go. So evidently, what was the issue over there? In terms of the way they read it, what they saw, based on what they saw, they immediately came to the conclusion, it's negative, it's not positive. Rather than believing in Hashem, that it's Eretz Zovas Chol V'Dvosh, and they will remove the enemy. That was the story. So the Sifarno says over here, Lo shoma lo Moshe, Lizbonin b'chozer, b'inya sheyiftchu b'yeshuas hakel yisborach. They did not reflect on what Moshe says, that they should have bitochon, they should have faith in the salvation of Hashem. This is very important. V'yashvel lem tzedakah. And if they would have had the faith, it would have been considered a schus for them, a righteousness. Ki'inyin Avram, as we find by Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu had succeeded, defeated the 4 kings. He had wealth, he had everything, he had fame. So Avram says to Hashem, but what's it all worth? My heir is going to be the overseer of my household, Damesek Eliezer. So Hashem says, ignore what you see, ignore what you believe. You will have your own natural child. And what the Torah says, Vayachshvel lo litzedakah. And that he believed was considered righteousness. It was a schus. That he believed was considered righteousness. So over here, the Sifarno says that if the Jews, despite their overwhelming distraction, they would have reflected and had the betochen Hashem, it would have been considered a tzedakah. It would have been considered righteousness for them. Listen. And he says, he says, and because they did not have this schus that they believed, despite, therefore the land was not given to them, and it was given to their children. Meaning, to be able to withstand the test of the Meraglim, you had to have a special schus. So because at this moment, they did not have the bitochon, they did not have the schus. Because they did not have the schus here, therefore they failed with the Meraglim. And therefore they did not go in, and the children did go in. These are the words of the Sifarno.
What pasuk of the Sforno?
What?
What pasuk are you reading from?
Pasuk Tes. So what I want to bring out is this. So there was a question the Ramban asked over there by Avram Avinu. Hashem says, you will have a child. You will have a child. It's not going to be your heir, your overseer of your household. It'll be your natural child. That he believed that he was going to have a son, when Hashem said, was righteousness. And Ramban asked a question. This is post Ur Kasdim. This is post, he was in the fire, came out of the fire. So if a person already who had a miracle performed on his behalf to such a degree that you go in the fire, come out of fire, now that Hashem says you can have a son, although naturally you can't have a child, why is it considered so special to believe that Hashem is going to give you the child? A person who never personally experienced this kind of miracle is one thing. Avram already experienced this miracle. So if he already experienced this miracle, why was it considered a special righteousness that he believed? That was the Ramban's question over there. So Ramban answers over there. He says he has a whole different interpretation of the pasuk. When it says by Avram ve'ashvel lo tzedakah, not that he believed was considered righteousness. The righteousness was that although Avram had so much merit, he did not attribute that Hashem was providing the child because of his merit, but rather it was tzedakah. Hashem was giving him charity. It was purely chesed Hashem. That's the way he internalized it. It's not because I'm special. Very often a person, he feels he has so much merit, he accomplished so much, therefore he has a right to receive something. Avram, when Hashem says you can have the child, Avram considered it that Hashem is giving the child. It's not because he espoused monotheism. It has nothing to do with that. It was purely tzedakah, it was pure chesed. That's why Hashem is giving him the child. Because of this question, the Ramban explains the pasuk differently than what it reads. But the simple reading is, it was that he believed was tzedakah. So how do we answer the Ramban's question? Why was it considered special that he believed after going in the kiln and coming out alive? So if you remember the Maral, I'd mentioned the Maral then, the Maral explains it this way. When we speak about what's the difference between nature and miracle, what's the difference? Nature, there's always this change in nature, correct? You plant, it grows, you harvest, it withers, it totally disintegrates. Seasons. You have one season, the season passes, another season. There's always transition in existence, physical existence. So on the terrestrial level, there's always change. What's miracle? Miracle is greater change. It's called supernatural. It's out of the ordinary change. You understand? So within nature, there's always flux and change. Miracle is greater change. So Avram experienced the miracle on the terrestrial level. He went in the kiln, came out alive. In the zodiac, there is no change. The heavenly bodies, we have a moon, we have a sun, we have stars. Basically, everything is stagnant. There's no change there. If the zodiac says Avram in lo ben, there is no change. That's like etched in stone. So that Avram believed that Hashem will change the zodiac, that was another level of belief. Therefore, it's veyashrel lo tzedakah. That's how the Maral explains why that was special. That was special. So it's clear the Sefarno was not learning like the Ramban. If they would have believed, despite the overwhelming level of work and the way they had to contend with all their responsibilities, despite that, you believe that merit would have allowed you to make it through the Meraglim. But because you did not, and you failed here, not that it's a claim, that's why they weren't able to contend with the test of the Meraglim, and they did not follow the word of Hashem, and therefore they failed over there. That's what we see this from the Sefarno. If it would have been that tzedakah here, it would have been considered righteousness for here, they would have been able to meet the challenge in the Midbar. But because here they failed, and they did not have sufficient faith to be considered a tzedakah for them, therefore they didn't have that merit to be able to withstand the test of the Meraglim. That's based on the Sefarno.
So it was like a testing ground for the Meraglim.
No, it was a test. It was a test.
Yeah.
But you see, over there, if you remember Rashi, even before they went, that they asked, and they said, we want to know for ourselves. We want to see for ourselves that it's a land of milk and honey. They already failed. Why? Because the Medrash says, what does an analogous do? A king says to his son, who's the prince, I have this beautiful princess for you to marry. She's poised, she has every quality, beauty, everything. The son says to the father, I'd like to see for myself. The father says, if you don't rely on me, she's not available to you. If Hashem already said, Eretz Zov V'Schol V'Dvosh, it's everything. Batim leim kol tuv. Well, you have to ask. You say, I want to see for myself. You know, they already disqualified. They already forfeited the right to go. Except because they would have understood why they weren't worthy of it. They had to go through the process of failing with the Meraglim. Now you understand why you're not supposed to be there. But the only reason why they asked, they said, we have to see for ourselves. Because they did not trust the word of Hashem. Wanting to see for yourself, why is it enough that I told you so? I told you it's a land. We want to see for ourselves. Why? If you would have had sufficient trust, there's no reason to see for yourself. If I give you a gift 1,000 times, a special gift, and the 1,001th time I say, I'm giving you another special gift, you say, could you prove it to me? You know, we have a track record here. I mean, there was no basis. After what the Jews saw themselves, what Hashem provided for them, what do you mean you want to see for yourselves? The answer is you failed. You failed. Now you're going to have to contend with issues that you're going to fail, and you'll see yourselves why you're not worthy to go into the land. Okay, that's the story. But the Meraglim is an outgrowth of this here. If they would have withstood this test here and had the faith here, it would have been considered a schus for them, a tzedakah, and therefore they've been able to deal with the future test, with that challenge in the future. And they would have never asked for spies at all, whatsoever.
That's interesting. I mean, it's amazing, really. But they went through all the Esther Makos. They went through the splitting of the sea, and even after that,
they had the Mun, they had the Ami Yaakov, they had the wellspring, they had everything.
Right. The Spartans saying that this was what would determine how they would handle the Meraglim.
Because they did not have this, the Meraglim wasn't a simple test. It wasn't a simple test. I mean, the way I explained it, you know, we say, but how do they fail? If you have a wall of fire in front of you, and I say to you, I want you, and Hashem says, walk through the wall of fire. How would we walk through? You know how we'd walk through? It's like a person goes into, it seems, a scalding bath. We'd first put our toes in to test how hot it is, and gradually we'll go in. What do you have to test it? If you have a wall of fire, would you just walk through the wall as if the fire's not there? That's the way you should walk through. But you know how we would walk through? We'd go slowly. We would test how hot it is. And then we would walk through. Why even hesitate? Walk straight through. If you have that degree of faith and trust, it's like the fire's not there. The Meraglim, when they came back and said they're giants, whatever they said, you know what a giant is? We're talking about these are levels of impossible situations. But Hashem says it's not a problem. It's like going through the fire. That's the level. You needed a special schus that you shouldn't have to, that it would not be a test. This was the proving grounds. This was the litmus test at this moment. And because they did not have the schus, therefore they failed in the future.